Welcome to Plant Pure Communities Facebook Live show, our Zoom webinar. We are so glad that you could join us tonight. Plant Pure Communities is doing such fantastic things to help the planet, to help people learn more about healthy eating, healthy whole food, plant-based, no oil eating. And we are creating some fantastic programs that are helping people around the world. And we're going to be telling you about one of those tonight. The one that we're telling you about tonight is about our college program. So certainly if you know a college student, someone who is headed to college or still hanging around college, maybe they're not in college anymore, but they're still hanging around, that'd be a great person to share this with. Share it with your friends, share it on your personal profile, share it into groups. If you're watching us on Facebook, just click the share button. If you're watching us inside the Zoom room, please go ahead and pop over to Facebook to the Plant Pure Communities page and press the share button there too. That would be fantastic. And it would help us bring more people in, because the more people who are eating whole food plant-based, it's just a trickle effect. And I know that just the little bit of sharing that I've done over the years has influenced a lot of people who come back to me later and say, I started eating whole food plant-based. I saw what you were talking about. So, you guys have an influence, and we are helping you have more influence with our fantastic toolkits, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we have several team members that are here joining us that are going to be chatting. Let's go ahead and start off with a round of introductions here. Let's start with Josh.
Hi guys, my name is Josh Wayne and I'm a regional manager with Plant Pure Communities. And I've also led a pretty successful student organization. So I'll be talking with you guys about that later tonight.
Okay, and Josh, tell them which college are you coming in from?
Currently, I attend the University of Georgia, and I'm in graduate school, and I'm actually at our Miller Learning Center, which is the big student center on campus.
Okay, and I actually attended undergraduate at Georgia Tech, so normally Josh and I would be major enemies, but we're not enemies. We're friends because we're aligned in our efforts to help people with whole food plant-based living. And I see that Susan Sasek is out there from Pleasantville, California. Thank you, Susan. You guys keep joining us. Keep letting us know. Post in the chat. Even though we've got the show going, post in the chat. Let us know that you're here, and we'll recognize you when we can. All right, let's see who else is out there. Ella?
Hi guys, my name is Ella Stevens. I'm a project manager at Plant Pure Communities, and I worked a lot on this Pods on Campus toolkit, which we will be sharing with you guys tonight. And I graduated from Cornell University last year and was part of Cornell Vegan Society there.
All righty, fantastic. Okay, and Jessie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessie Arnold, and I am also project manager for Plant Pure Communities. But in addition to that, I'm regional manager for North Carolina. I help staff the Advocacy Council, and I'm the point person for the restaurant campaign. And like Ella, I also graduated from Cornell University last summer, and I was also a part of the Cornell Vegan Society.
Fantastic. Really wonderful. Okay, let's see. I think we have not heard from Caroline yet.
Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Dyer, and I am the Director of New Initiatives and Operations at Plant Pure Communities. My alma mater is the University of Virginia. I belong to Alpha Phi Omega there, a co-ed service fraternity. That's my college club experience. And I then moved on to working at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for 9 years before joining Plant Pure Communities staff. So I have a lot of experience more so with the University of North Carolina and what student club life is like there, although I was no longer a student at that point in time. So that's why I know it is very important to consider staff on campus, because there are a lot of them and they're there full-time all year round. And it makes a huge difference to have plant-based options available for the staff as well as the students.
Okay, fantastic. And Kristen, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Plant Pure Communities.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Courage. I'm a regional manager for Plant Pure Communities, and I'm located in the Chicagoland area. I went to Loyola University Chicago, and while I didn't start a pod there, I did start a student organization, which was a chapter of a local nonprofit. So a lot of similarities that we'll be discussing, and I love the team at PPC. I'm really excited about what we're doing, so I'm very happy to have you all here. Thanks for tuning in.
Boy, as you guys can see, we have a fantastic team at Plant Pure Communities, and people can't work for free. Now, they'd like to be working for free, but some of them do volunteer. And I tell you what, everybody's working really hard. And as you might imagine, it takes a lot of money to put together a great team, to put together resources, to put together the marketing, to reach folks just like you that are tuning into this show tonight. So if you want to help us in what you're doing, certainly one way to do that is just to share on Facebook, tell people about what we're doing, join a pod. But another way is good old cold hard cash. That works too. And we are fundraising right now. In fact, we have an opportunity for a matching gift from the Center for Nutrition Studies, from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. And with that, they're matching every dollar that's donated. So it's a good time. If you have a little bit extra change lying around, please go over to the Plant Pure Communities website and you'll see a donate button. We'd appreciate it if you do that. With that, we're going to launch right into our program. As we're doing that, I would love to see in the comments inside the Zoom room or inside Facebook, if you would post there, if you're part of any sort of a vegan organization on your campus already, or an animal rights organization or an environmental organization, something like that, just post down below. That would be fantastic. And with that, let's pass it on to Caroline, who's going to get us started with more of our show tonight.
Great. Thanks so much, Deena. And welcome to everybody who's joining us tonight, whether you're new to Plant Pure Communities and what we do, or if you've been connected to us for a couple of more years, if you're a group leader or someone who is interested in starting a group on campus. So we are just excited to have you all here joining us. And many of you probably already know what Plant Pure Communities is. But for those of you who don't, we're a 501c3 nonprofit foundation. Nelson Campbell, the son of Dr. Colin Campbell, founded Plant Pure Communities. And the film Plant Pure Nation is part of, directed by Nelson Campbell, as part of what kicked off the nonprofit's work. Our organization's, one of our primary missions is to share that vital health message that Dr. Campbell, his research has shown that the optimal diet for human health is a whole food plant-based one. And we just really want to share this science message with everyone so that people can be more empowered to make health decisions and understand how what they choose to eat can help or harm them. We also want to make it easier for everyone to eat nutritiously, which we do through efforts such as the restaurant campaign, which you'll hear more about later, our advocacy work, and through making change in local communities, supporting our pods, the pod network with toolkits and other types of support. And so moving on to the next slide, the pod network, for all of you who are new to this, is maintained by Plant Pure Communities, but it is a whole network of community groups located all across the US and around the world. There are approximately 500 pods worldwide with over 76,000 reported members. Anyone is welcome to join a pod or start one wherever you are on your journey towards whole food, plant-based lifestyle. It's really about inclusivity and making everyone welcome so that they can learn more about this information. It's so vital for our health. We really believe that the pods have the ability to achieve real change and making a difference in our world and shifting what we consider food into this one that will actually heal and nurture and treat our illnesses. And so the one way that we do this is through the OASIS program. which is modeled after the jump starts that you see in the Plant Pure Nation film. The Oasis program is specifically oriented towards making sure no one is left behind in receiving this nutrition education and this important healing message, no matter what their socioeconomic status is or where they live. Oasis, of course, is in counter to the food desert issues that people have. So we're creating oases in the food deserts. Under this program, which is still in its pilot stage, we're going to, we've already had 7 Oasis jump starts completed in 2017. They were in Atlanta, Providence, Bullhead City, and Chattanooga. We learned so much from these first pilots, which were anchored by having a 10-day jump start with biomarker testing before and after. And everybody was receiving whole food plant-based meals during those jump starts, as well as supplemental support, including cooking demos and grocery store tours, things like that. We recently issued a national open invitation for this year, and we're currently still reviewing the applications we received. We believe that we will be conducting approximately 10 jump starts in communities all around the US this year. We also work closely with the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and through a collaboration with them, we're able to offer scholarships to our group leaders for their plant-based nutrition certificate program, which is offered through eCornell and the Center for Nutrition Studies. This scholarship opportunity is intended to ensure that the educational benefits of plant-based nutrition are shared with leaders and communities across the country who are working to improve their lives, their neighbors' lives, and their community. We recently awarded 5 scholarships, and we're expecting to award 10 more before the end of this year to group leaders who are most engaged, doing a lot with their pods and in their communities. So stay tuned, and new group leaders, once you've been a group leader for a certain period of time, not very long, you are welcome to apply for these scholarships as well. Next slide, please, Gina. And to get to where our focus is tonight, which is on a toolkit, we created the toolkits as support primarily for the pod network to help people who really wanted guidance on doing a particular project, like having a veg fest in their community, as well as for just helping their members in their pod understand how to dine out. Like maybe you don't know how to go into some kind of chain restaurant and find on the menu what you can turn into a whole food plant-based meal. So these toolkits were designed for support primarily for group leaders and pod members, but they can be used by anybody and are full of great information. And so now we'll turn it over to Ella, who will be focusing on introducing our newest toolkit, the Pods on Campus toolkit.
Thank you, Caroline. So hi, everyone. My name is Ella, and I'm a project manager at Plant Pure Communities. I worked closely with Caroline to create this Pods on Campus toolkit, and we are excited to share it with you tonight. The purpose of this toolkit is to provide a framework for college students who are passionate about plant-based diets to create a pod on campus to educate their peers, community members, professors, and other college faculty. This will grow the Plant Pure Communities pod network and will expand the plant-based grassroots movement to reach younger generations. We want our future politicians, teachers, doctors, lawyers, and other leaders to understand the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet for society's health and the environment. If you want to open the web page, Gina, thank you. If you are a college student, this toolkit will help you create a pod, either by working with an existing vegan club on campus or by creating a new club as part of the pod network. Alternatively, you might decide to create a pod independent from your college club, which may work better in certain scenarios. If you are a college staff or faculty member who is interested in plant-based diets, you can work with students at the college to create a pod. It is great to have a professor or faculty member who supports plant-based diets as a mentor for the club and who can help keep the pod running seamlessly from year to year as students graduate. To the students out there, it is worth finding a staff member who can get involved with your pod, and this is discussed within the toolkit. If you are joining us today and you are not affiliated with a college, we encourage you to share this information with students who may want to start a pod. Or if you live close to a college campus, you can offer on-the-ground support to help students with their pods. If you are involved in a community pod near a college, you and other pod members can support the campus pod as they get started and mentor them when necessary. Once the pod is established, a community and campus pod could hold joint events for students and community members, such as a plant-based speaker, a documentary screening, or getting involved in the restaurant campaign. Now I'd like to show you a couple of documents in the toolkit, which you can find in the action sheet section, which Deena will show you right there, before we hear from our campus club experts, Josh and Kristen. So now back to the PowerPoint, please, Deena. And then get the next slide. So the action sheet overview of pods on campus. Oh, sorry, back up one. Yeah, perfect. The action sheet overview of pods on campus is a great place to start. It provides a description of the Plant Peer Communities pod network, offers reasons to start a pod on campus, and explains what resources are found within the toolkit. Read the sheet for an overview of the pod network community your campus pod will be a part of. Next, I would like to show the action sheet roadmap for creating a pod on campus. The sheet contains an illustration which briefly outlines the necessary steps to create a pod on campus. Then the sheet explains these steps further based on whether you would be starting a pod from scratch or if you would work with an existing vegan, environmental, or animal rights club, which would join the pod network. The sheet also considers whether it is worth it for a pod to become an official club on campus or remain independent from college. And either Josh or Kristen will talk about this further, but now I will pass it on to Josh.
All right, thanks so much, Ella. And if you could go to the next slide, thanks. And yeah, I just really want to stress that this toolkit that Ella's been able to put together can be very helpful. And what I can offer you is my experience here at the University of Georgia. I personally started a club the fall of my freshman year. And so should I start my own pod or my own club? Well, it depends on the time that you have to commit. And while Plant Peer Communities was not around when I was a freshman, I started a separate club. I wrote a constitution and articles of incorporation and did a lot of work on my own that I think these toolkits, I've been able to put some of my input into. Caroline, Kristen, everyone's been giving input. So I think that's really great resource to read. And can you go to the next slide, Deena? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a case study. This is not particularly about the club that I've started, but I'm going to take some of the knowledge that I've learned as being a president of an organization that grew from 0 to over 450 students to how I worked with our local vegan organization, Speak Out for Species. And I can't recommend Speak Out for Species enough. They have done amazing things. And Pure Sprouts right there is the pod that I created in Athens. And so far we have over 55 people on this Facebook page, and we've found ways to work together with them. And so if we go to the next slide, I want to share some advice that I got or one more before that. Oh, yes. So this is some advice that I got as a president of another organization. We were all somewhat in the same arena, and I got the advice not to dig 3 holes through the same mountain. And so what I've kind of learned from this and how I want to apply it to what we're doing is don't bring 3 different tables to the same veg fest. And you know what I mean by that here, the picture that you guys can see is Speak Out for Species. And this is their yearly meet out fest where they have huge tables full of vegan food, full of information, really anything that you could want. And with an organization like this that's already established on campus, I think that, the first step for me is really to talk to this organization, ask, how can we work together? You can create a pod of your own and then come and speak at this organization. But I do want to stress that it is a lot of work to create a new organization. And one thing that we need to think about is weekly meetings. So this organization, Speak Out for Species, they have a meeting on Wednesdays. And at the University of Georgia, Greek life is a really big thing. So fraternities have meetings on Mondays, and then they have socials on Thursdays, and people don't want to go to meetings on Fridays. So you can see that students' weeks, it gets really crammed, and sometimes it's hard for people to go to multiple meetings a week. And we want to keep our resources and keep people who will be interested in what we're talking about. We want to be able to reach out to them and not give them too many Facebook groups to join or notifications to read. And if you go to the next slide, show you guys a little bit of what we've been doing together. So on the bottom right, you can see the great work that they're doing. They're handing out food. And one thing that I'd like to be able to do more moving forward is bring just fresh plants, and a lot of things that as these vegan clubs have, they like to give out vegan food, vegan milks, vegan cheeses, a lot of highly processed foods. And while that does help get these lines that you can see right on the screen, we have an opportunity here to talk about healthful foods that promote health instead of creating chronic disease. And I think that it's a perfect arena that we can tag onto. And then on the top left, this is one of my friends, and I'm actually in the corner there, but this is when T. Colin Campbell and Nelson came for Healing America, and Speak Out for Species set up a table, and I got to come help and just talk. So really, it helps everybody to see that these clubs on campus are growing, and Plant Pure can just play its part in creating that conversation around whole food, plant-based diet. I think it's something that's generally missed in the vegan communities, and something that they'd be interested in learning more about. And if you go to the next slide, Gina. Oh, yes. Alrighty, so this is how we work together. The first thing that I did with them is I actually did a presentation about the China study. As soon as I read it, I was just so interested to know about the whole food plant-based movement and really the health side of veganism. I didn't know about it. And so for these clubs, in my experience, particularly working with a vegan club as opposed to a health conscious specifically club, is that most people had no idea about the China study, about the disease and diet connection. And so this was something that I thought was great. I handed people some oranges after I gave the presentation because people love to eat. And our recent webinar, I had Speak Out for Species, just post something there. And one thing that I really want to add here for the future, and an event that I'm working on planning, and I hope maybe you guys will join me too, is that we can have a fruit eating competition. And in this competition at UGA, we've had a bunch of fundraisers where athletes will come and do certain things, and it would be great to have athletes just eating fruits, eating plants, and showing how few calories they're getting and giving information about that. This could be a fundraiser or just a fun time that you have with friends, and we could donate food as well. But just start thinking about ways that we can incorporate bananas, apples, strawberries, and fresh fruits into the vegan community, because I think it's a new area for growth and also something that many people would be open to. But as these new vegan products, it's super exciting to see vegan ice creams on the shelves and vegan Oreos. And it's great to let people know that. And at the same time, I think that creating a pod or creating a group on campus can be really key to helping those vegans also feel healthy. And so, as you're considering whether you want to create your own pod only, or whether you want to come onto campus and create a student organization, know that it takes a lot of work, but that work of creating a student organization has been extremely helpful in my experience. It's extremely similar to just creating your own business, actually. And I think you'll find no matter what you do, it'll be very rewarding. But Kristen will be telling us more about whether we should start our own pods or whether we should start the pod and go on campus and create a student organization. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. And hi again, my name is Kristen. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what Josh spoke about, but also my own personal experience and how those differed, and just considering what the most benefits will be for you in creating your own organization. And I just want to start out by saying, as many of my team members have touched on, this is such important work, especially with young people. We're really changing the face of the food industry and health. And I think currently the food industry and the health industry don't work together. And that's something that we need to change. And it seems obvious, but it's really something that has to come from the ground up. And college students are so involved in every other aspect of life. Why not involve them in this? So I know that I've been speaking with a lot of group leaders recently that are so excited to hear that we're bringing the Pod Network to college campuses. And as Josh said, creating an organization on campus, I honestly feel that it was like creating a nonprofit, and it gave me so many skills and life experience. And I'm just really glad to be able to share that with you all today. So I commend you all for being here in the first place. This is really important. And a little bit about my own experience. So I went to Loyola University in Chicago, and attending the university in the first place got me to become vegan. I'll never forget, I took my first environmental ethics class, and the first subject was animal rights. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to become a vegan. And since then, I've really gotten so involved. I read the China study, Forks Over Knives, What the Health, all of the above, and I just can't get enough of this information. So anyone that is interested in any part of this, I commend you, and I encourage you to get further involved with us. I think PPC is a very unique organization, and we're doing a lot that could really change the face of the future for this society. So the first slide that I'd like to talk about is really just getting started on your campus, and whether that be just a pod or a pod plus a student organization, I thought it'd be a good visual aid to just break it down into the positives and negatives and talk a little bit about what challenges you might face, some strategies to get ahead of anything that you might encounter. So of course, creating a pod, one thing that I love and I've heard from group leaders as a regional manager is just the sheer easiness, in setting up an original pod and establishing an organization. I think that creating a student organization on campus, as Josh mentioned, being the president of an org, it is wonderful in so many ways, but it is a ton of work, and it takes a lot in the initial stages to set up. So something that PPC does really, really well is makes the process very simple and clear and concise, and it's pretty easy to set up a pod. So I would highly recommend starting out with a pod no matter what, and seeing how that system kind of falls together, seeing which people that you reach out to, if you're able to build that core team, and really using individual skills to the best of your advantage. And then of course, if you feel comfortable and you find that you have people that are well-versed in the school's resources or the rules and regulations, funding opportunities, all of the above, then perhaps pursuing becoming a student organization on campus. So as some of the things on this slide, it's in just being a pod, there's a couple benefits. There's really, really clear direct support from PPC. You'll kind of have everything laid out for you right as you get started. And as this toolkit will do, in addition to all the other toolkits that PPC offers, we're taking out a lot of the middle work, hopefully for you all as you create these organizations. And it's not as much busy work as if you were starting something on your own. So something really important is that this is not just you, the individual, but this is you with the backup of an entire nationwide network of people just like you that are really fighting this fight and want to do this important work. So we really want to support you in every way possible. And then of course, some of the negatives of just being a pod, you might miss out on certain campus-wide things such as campus-wide communication, if there might be newsletters that go out, or a calendar, or if there's screens around campus that you feel that you're not maybe able to access without having the backup of that student organization. And something that's very important that I've learned is notifying and identifying a mentor or some sort of moderator. Now, that doesn't have to be within your university. It can be really, really helpful, of course, if you're doing campus-wide events, things like that. But something you may miss out on if you don't become a student organization is having that campus faculty connection, that person that might really be able to help you change the growth and the outreach of the organization itself. But besides that, I think it's a great place to start, and there's really not many downsides of just being a pod. And I think also something important to note is there's a lot that can be done with pods throughout each university. Let's say in one state, if you connect 3, 4, or 5 pods, all of a sudden it's not just your pod, but you have hundreds of people potentially that could co-sponsor events, that could cross-advertise for you. So there's wonderful benefits even if you don't become a student organization. And with that, becoming a student org in addition to the pod, of course, you have a little bit more access to, let's say, meeting spaces, event spaces, things like that. You might be able to communicate a little bit easier with the student body. And then in addition, if you're really working to change the actual food on campus and work with a nutritional committee or something like that, might be a little bit easier to partner with them if you are technically a student organization. Now, of course, some negatives as well. I have found, I created a chapter of what's called the Food Recovery Network at Loyola Chicago. And that was all about food recovery and donating surplus food on our campus. And we actually ran into a lot of regulations that we didn't foresee and some limitations because we were a student organization. So it's interesting when you're thinking about things like funding, you may actually come into more kind of like struggle with certain rules that you're trying to get past. So really look at what you want to do with your pod, where you want to go, what kind of events you want to host. And if you're not, bent on really becoming that student organization, look at the potential benefits that you might actually see without becoming a student org. So it's just something to consider. And of course, the PPC team is here to help you at any time. Josh and I are very much involved still on our campuses, and we'd be happy to answer any of these questions as they come up. So Gina, next slide, please. Okay, so something that you all may be thinking about is how do we attract those vegans on campus? How do we find the random people that maybe have started the plant-based lifestyle but aren't as knowledgeable or are afraid to go and look for events or just don't know where to find them? You know, it can be very overwhelming at these large universities to figure out where exactly we find some of this information. So some important things to consider. You might already be a part of an organization on campus, whether that be formal or informal. For me personally, I was involved in student government at my school, and I was on a volleyball team at the time. And while neither of those things are directly related to plant-based nutrition or vegans necessarily, I kind of started with my friends and I built out from there. And all of a sudden I found people in those small groups that I maybe wouldn't have had identified before. So I highly recommend looking into any groups you're already a part of. Even if it doesn't seem like it may be that much of a connection, you might find individuals that are really there. And something that we're hopefully going to create through this toolkit is just an easy little blurb that you could stand up in class, for example, and read out and present based on the pod network, explaining what we do, what our mission is, and kind of steering the connotation to a really positive light and not focusing necessarily on the negatives, but saying, wow, this is the positive impact of what you could do if we were working towards this. And you might attract more people that may not have even known that they would be interested in the first place. So professors are a great resource. You can kind of ask them if they would send out an email blast. I've done that before, or a newsletter, if there's an environmental newsletter, a sustainability newsletter, anything like that. And that might actually help you locate a mentor as well. And something I touched on before, if there's any sort of nutritional or sustainability committee on campus, does one already exist? If not, could you help create one? Could your pod be the liaison between the student body and the improvement of food on campus? That's something that could be a great first topic to talk about with your pod. What can we really do to provide a whole foods, plant-based, no oil meal, or even a meatless Monday, something like that? It's a really good place to start. And in addition to that, there's all sorts of events that happen on college campuses, farmers markets, veg fests. If there's a conference, just wanted to touch on, it may not necessarily be already affiliated with your university, but you could be that first connection. You could be the one that says, hey, let's tie together this biomedical conference with our pod, because a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of the environmental impacts of their food or the scientific aspect of some of these things. So it's an interesting connection there. And then again, just something that's important is building your team and designating clear roles. So, promoting and encouraging people to use their own skills, whether that be writing grants, or maybe if they're a student government member, they're really knowledgeable about the rules of the university. Using all of those to your advantage and empowering young students, I found something really important is identifying those young leaders and building them up and believing in them. And, those could be the next president of the university, of the organization, or it could be the next leader of your pod. So it's really focusing on everyone and anyone that's interested in this. And again, PPC has done a great job of putting all of these resources together. I'm excited about the roadmap. I think that is a wonderful place to start, and know that we will do anything we can to develop this process for you and make it easier. And Gina, next slide, please. Perfect. And then just a couple of things. Something that I wish when I started the organization on campus at Loyola was I wish I had someone sit me down and say, these are some of the challenges that you might see arise, and this is a way to get out ahead of them. So some of the things that you might run into as you start to create, whether it be just a pod or a pod plus a student org, is I think that the initial outreach is the most difficult part, and getting people to really not only show up, but keep coming back and get excited and just really being willing to get involved more than just liking a page or occasionally involving themselves in a conversation, something like that. So something that's important is providing incentives. I think when Josh mentioned tabling or having events, some sort of competition, using some small thing, whether that be coffee or a plant-based snack or something. If you're going to encourage people to follow you on Facebook or like your page on Instagram, whatever it may be, offering them something to say that you're important to this, we want you to come back, and we value your time here. And I think time is a very interesting thing with college students. A lot of us, we kind of check out after about a minute. So one of the things that one of my favorite pieces of advice is use a minute to your best advantage, and have something that not only is empowering and fun, whether that be a game, positive praise, anything like that, but something that will keep them really excited and focused, even if it's a short amount of time that you're getting to speak to them. So one of the pictures you'll see on here, the bottom right, is one of the games that we did for an event at Loyola, and we used food waste statistics to engage people. So they were able to receive cookies if they got some of the statistics right, and we saw people's faces change as they realized how big of an issue it really is, what's going on in both health and food waste right now. And they walked away not only with a cookie, but actually thinking about how they could further change the pace of that issue. So a couple of quick last things is the interesting thing about using the word vegan versus plant-based. I think it's important to think about the positives again, as we've said. So something PPC does well is using this plant-based and plant-pure term as opposed to vegan. Sometimes on college campuses, people hear, oh, it's a vegan club, I don't eat that way, I can't be involved. But it's not just about that. It's about much more than that, and it's about bringing people into the mix that may not know a lot of the information that we've been privy to by reading these wonderful resources. So just always focusing on the positive impact. And then as well as funding, again, like we touched on, the differences in limitations of funding and rules, regulations, it's something that you want to focus on before it becomes a problem. So designating a treasurer, someone on your team that knows the deadlines ahead of time so you don't get closed out. Really just making sure, and of course, if you don't become a student organization, you actually might have a lot more access to funding. So taking advantage of any fundraising opportunities. I know that at Loyola, we table constantly at the farmers market, and you're able to do certain fundraising things if you're not a student organization. So something just to remember there. And then consistent participation is just about bringing people back. Member retention is a huge thing, and engaging people in every meeting, every event, really asking people questions, critical thinking, things like that. We want people to keep coming back and keep getting involved. So that's all I have. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I think, Gina, we're going to take some questions now, I believe.
Yes, we are. We certainly are. So that will be great. Yes, thank you. Gosh, so much great information. I'm ready to go back to college and start a pod. I think that's a great idea. With that, let's pop over. We have some questions that have come in. I know some were posted during the registration process. Some coming in through the chat. Some are coming in through the Facebook page. So let's see. Let's go to Caroline. Do you have a question for Josh or Kristen?
Yeah, I'll start one with for Josh. We had a question from Devin at Emory University, which was, how do we implement a wider variety of plant-based offerings in dining halls to facilitate students' transitions?
Great. Thanks so much for that question. And I'm really happy that it's at Emory, and I've actually been to Emory. And so I want to preface this by saying that each school, university has a different system of doing things. And I know that Emory did receive a good amount of money from Coca-Cola. They have very beautiful Coca-Cola fountains. And so the environment might be different from UGA in my experiences. But what I've seen from UGA is that our dining hall system is actually a business, not specifically part of the University of Georgia, but a separate business. So their goal is for client satisfaction. And when people speak out and say, I'm really not satisfied with the meals, at least with our dining halls, they want you to be on the meal plan all 4 years if possible. And so basically there's going to be somebody who does outreach, some PR, and there's going to be somebody that you can talk to. You can also talk to a nutritionist. My university at UGA had a nutritionist on staff that was really helpful in allowing me to take food from the salad bar and let people cook it up on a pan, actually. And you can get your group of people who are interested in whole food, plant-based meals. Maybe you can ask for certain privileges so that they can heat up maybe some cold tofu in the salad bar if you don't want to eat it cold. And another thing that I will say, since you're from Emory, is that the School of Public Health is probably one of the best schools of public health in the country. And they do have a nutrition program as well. So see if there are some students who are also interested and maybe have that initiative. But I don't have all the answers for every single university, and they're all going to be different. But talk to the person who manages the dining halls.
Great. And we had another question from Niels at North Carolina Central University in Durham. Many of the students there are food insecure and have very limited access to fresh veggies, and they live in small dorms. How can we help them? Kristen, if you could answer that one.
Sure. I think, something that I really understood as working with a food insecure specific organization is it doesn't just pertain to food insecure students or homeless students or anyone experiencing an issue like that. It really pertains to the larger question of health. So a lot of times the issue with food insecurity, people think, oh, there's a Wendy's on the corner. We're not food insecure. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It's not just about having food in your area. It's about having fresh, local, wonderful produce that you can go pick up that's not going to break the bank. And something that we've all discussed together as a team, which Jesse mentioned, is food in dorms, something like a rice cooker or an Instapot, something like that could be really, really beneficial. It might seem, kind of like a last minute thing, but it's really when you're looking towards improving your budget and saving costs and eating vegan for very cheap, grains, focusing on grains and fresh veggies are a wonderful way to keep the cost down. I know personally from going vegan, when I started shopping for just produce as opposed to meats, cheeses, processed foods, things like that, I cut my budget in half instantly. And now I'm constantly looking at, okay, what are the regulations with organic food, or how much more expensive is the food from the farmer's market, things like that. But as Josh said too, really talking with your university about what we offer students. So I think there's the dual benefits of having something in your own dorm or in your own room, the house that you live in, to make whatever easy types of grains or veggies that you can make in your house. And also speaking on a wider level, on an advocacy level, and really fighting for those students that might be facing food insecurity. It's something that you can't see. You look at someone and you would never know if they're hungry, unfortunately. and they're probably not going to tell you right off the bat. So really attacking that head on with your university and making sure that they're aware that that's an issue, or locating how many students, for example, face that. What's the percentage of students that are food insecure on campus? All of a sudden, when you present those numbers and you really look at the return on investment or how it could be cost effective for the university overall, it turns into more of a conversation than an issue. So I would highly recommend going and speaking with whatever sustainability committee, nutritional committee, or starting one. If there's not one, maybe that could be a first great activity for your pod. And it's something that we can change in this lifetime, and we will.
This is so exciting. I really think we're at a tipping point. The amazing changes that are going in technology and improving these plant-based substitutes, as well as just activism like this. And there's people watching right now, and you guys that are watching, you have the ability to influence literally millions of people by your actions. So, and one of those small actions could be sharing this video. You may be watching right now, you may be watching during the replay on Facebook or YouTube or even on our website. So please share this with others. And we do have some more fantastic information for you, so don't go away. Right now, we're going to turn it over to Ella, who is going to wrap up our section right here about the college programs. And then we have some other exciting news for you. So Ella?
Thank you, Deena. And thank you, Josh and Kristen, for presenting and answering questions. Caroline and I spoke with Josh and Kristen when writing this toolkit, and their experiences with clubs on campuses provided a lot of the substance for these documents. So read the action sheets within this toolkit for more tips and advice from Josh and Kristen. And if you have additional questions for Josh and Kristen, please email info@plantpeercommunities.org. And Deena, that email address is on the next slide, if you could pull those up. They are more than happy to help students create pods on campus to further the plant-based movement. And if you're watching the recording of this webinar at a later date, please don't hesitate to email us your questions and we'll get back to you. We all feel very passionately about sharing the plant-based health message with college students, as they are the future. And so next, I would like to go over the other documents in the toolkit. Just go forward 2 slides, please, Deena. And so the action sheet, preparing the framework for your pod to grow, will help you think through the logistics of setting up a club. If you're working with an existing club on campus, these structures may already be in place. So use this sheet to adjust things as necessary, or follow the existing structure if everything is working well. For those students who want to start a pod as a campus club, this sheet will be particularly useful to think through appointing board members, hosting elections, naming the pod, and more. Or if you are starting a pod independent from the college, but with future intentions to become an official campus club, these structures may be useful to consider. And so now let's look at the action sheet, holding meetings. Successful meetings are crucial to keep momentum building within your pod. You will get to know other pod members, plan events, brainstorm campus initiatives, and gain valuable skills regarding organizing a meeting. So use this sheet to plan the location and schedule for your meetings, to welcome newcomers, and to maintain enthusiasm within pod members, or with the pod members. There is also a suggested agenda which you can use to adapt for your own meetings. And when and if possible, we recommend bringing plant-based snacks to meetings to attract new students and to encourage members to show up and participate. Fruit is always a great option. And the next action sheet, titled Promoting and Fundraising, offers tips to help you create a presence for your pod on campus. Once the pod has been established, it is important to spread the word about the exciting and important initiatives you'll be undertaking on campus. These will help attract other students who are interested in getting involved with the pod, who can contribute and support your efforts to make a difference on campus. There are many ways to get the word out, including tabling, hanging banners and flyers, word of mouth, and making announcements in class. Another important aspect of running a pod on campus is fundraising, as Kristen was talking about. And so while your college may provide your pod with funding, if you're an official campus club, any additional fundraising can be used to cover expenses such as printing materials, driving related costs, providing snacks, and more. So use this sheet to be strategic when fundraising on your campus. And then the last action sheet in the toolkit is titled Activating Your Campus and Community. and it offers fun suggestions to engage others, college faculty or other students, college faculty, and community members. As Josh talks about, your pod could host a fruit eating contest to raise money and increase your presence on campus. So consider partnering with another club to host a film screening, potluck, or veg fest. This sheet also contains ideas for a joint community events between a campus and community pod, such as getting involved with the restaurant campaign at a local restaurant. And so now, Gina, if we could go back to the web page, the Toolkit web page. And so we looked through the action sheets, which are located here on the Toolkit page. And we also have a few info sheets that we included from other toolkits that might be useful for you and your pod members. And they're located right there. And yeah, so over the summer, we'll be adding templates and multimedia tools to the toolkit for campus pods to use. And the templates will include flyers that you can personalize to help advertise your pod and recruit students who may be interested in learning about how they can benefit from a plant-based diet. And then the Pods on Campus Toolkit also contains a recommended resources section with links to additional articles and websites related to creating a veg club on campus. And so if you know any other resources that would be useful to college students, please send them to us at info@plantpurecommunities.org so we can add them here. And also send us a message if you would like us to keep you updated as we add more documents to the toolkit. And just to touch on those two questions that we talked about, the article listed there, It's Hard to Study If You're Hungry, talks about how you can help food insecure students, and students at a lot of colleges have started working with the campus dining staff to donate extra meal swipes to students who can't afford a meal plan or to have regular meals. And then the incorporating vegetarian meals on college campus is a Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine sheet, which provides tips to work with your college dining halls to increase plant-based options. So those are great resources there. And now I would like to pass it on to Jessie, who will talk a little bit about the restaurant campaign.
Thank you, Ella. And hi, everybody. I'm Jessie again, and I am project manager for Plant Pure Communities. And I'm here to talk to you about another one of our initiatives that came out of the Advocacy Council, which is the Plant Pure Communities Restaurant Campaign. And for those of you who've not heard about the restaurant campaign, it's a nationwide campaign that works to increase the number of plant-based, oil-free dishes served in restaurants all over the nation. And the idea behind the campaign is for pod members and community members to go out into their local community and work with local restaurateurs to add plant-based, oil-free meals to their permanent menu. And so just to give you an update on some of the numbers, we have 42 restaurants that are participating, and of which of those 32 have earned certificates. And all of these 42 restaurants are serving plant-based, oil-free dishes, and they're also located in 12 different states across the U.S. And Gina, if you want to go ahead to the next slide. And so now I'm going to share with you a few additions to the restaurant campaign toolkit. And so the first one here is the Shortcut to Success packet. And so Gina, if you want to go ahead and click on that link. And so this link takes you to the restaurant campaign webpage. And if you click on that top button there, Gina, yes, perfect. So this is a document that we created, and it basically includes everything that you need to know about the restaurant campaign and have on hand when you are initiating the campaign in your community. And it contains a document that summarizes the campaign, as well as information for chefs about how to cook without oil, and even a sheet with key facts to share with the restaurant owner. And so Gina, if you want to go back to the main page. And then the second thing that I wanted to share with you guys that is new to the toolkit is under the template section, and it is the feedback card. Yep, right there. And this card is basically just something that diners can leave at restaurants, encouraging the restaurant owner and chef to continue to offer plant-based menu items. And it also has a link to the restaurant campaign webpage. So, if a restaurant is interested and want to join the campaign, they know exactly how to get connected with us and get involved. And the idea with these is that we would love for group leaders to print, a few sheets of these cards out, cut them up and hand them out to pod members at their pod meetings. And so this way pods can, have an easy and effective way to spread the message about the restaurant campaign and support restaurants that are already serving these types of meals. And then lastly, if you want to learn more about the campaign and get involved, you can visit the restaurant campaign webpage on our website, or feel free to send me an email. And my email is jarnold@plantpurecommunities.org. And so now I will hand it off to Ella, who will talk about the Get Growing initiative.
Hi, can you hear me? Something went wrong. Yeah? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Desi. So as a reminder to everyone, please submit photos of your square foot garden using this link as part of the Get Growing initiative, which runs through August 31st. We select 2 winners every month, and they receive a square foot gardening book and trowel from the Square Foot Gardening Foundation. And so these beautiful gardens belong to Andrea, who was our April winner. And all of our winners are highlighted on both Plant Peer Communities and the Square Foot Gardening Foundation's social media. And so there is still plenty of time to get growing and enter the competition. And so now back to you, Deena.
Okay, terrific there. Do we have any questions? If you guys have questions, please post them in the chat. Post them in the Facebook comments. That would be very helpful to us. We are going to answer questions about, if you have questions about the restaurant campaign, if you have questions about the Get Growing initiative, and if you still have lingering questions about the college program. So let's go to Caroline first. Caroline, are there any questions that have come in?
It does not look like we've gotten any in the chat. But anybody who is in the Zoom webinar, please feel free to share them if you have any.
Okay, fantastic. All right. And Jesse, any questions that have come in through Facebook that we want to acknowledge?
No questions yet.
Okay. Well, no questions, but I do notice a fantastic comment that I think echoes probably the sentiment of a lot of people out here. Let me just read it. This is from Marcela Trevino Santa Cruz. Thank you for creating and sharing such wonderful resources. Wonderful to share this crucial knowledge with our youth. Greetings from Fort Myers, Florida. So thank you, Marcella, so much for that. That's fantastic. And hey, anybody else who appreciates what the fabulous team at Plant Pure Communities is doing, please post that in the comments below too. That's great. All right, with that, let's turn it over to Caroline for a wrap up of this month's session.
Great. If you could go to the next slide, Gina. Well, we greatly appreciate everyone who joined us this evening. Thank you, of course, to Gina for running our show, and for everybody on the Plant Pure Communities team who was here to present. We welcome your questions and comments and suggestions about the toolkit or anything that we're doing. Please feel free to email us at info@plantpurecommunities.org. And yeah, in the next slide now, we would love to welcome you to join these events that we have upcoming. On November 1st, we'll be in New York City for our annual Party with a Purpose celebration. Dr. T. Colin Campbell will be one of our presenters, and there'll also be, of course, networking with other amazing people doing work in this whole food plant-based arena, and there'll be a delicious buffet. Of course, the food will all be whole food plant-based and it's always been amazing. And we'll be in a beautiful venue in the west side or the Upper East Side of Manhattan. We also have another webinar scheduled. There'll be more details coming soon. We're very excited that on August 8th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have a special webinar with a dialogue format between Nelson Campbell and Peter Lerner of Earth Justice, focused on the food climate connection. We hope this will be a precursor to a larger effort that brings environmental leaders together with the food nutrition leaders to develop a common language that starts from the fact that climate impacts our food greater than all transportation impacts combined. And then finally, of course, everybody join a pod. If you aren't a member of one already, see if one exists where you live. And if not, we welcome you to start one. It doesn't have to be, it's not like we expect you to start a pod and have hundreds of members immediately. It can be a small neighborhood pod, you and a couple of friends, and then just notice how with the intention behind creating this place for people to come and learn about whole food plant-based eating, that just automatically begins to grow. More and more people will be interested, and you'll see it shift some in your local community. Also join the restaurant campaign. That will make a difference the more that the plant-based options are out there for other people to see. The better it'll be for everybody and the animals. And then, of course, based on our topic today, Pods on Campus, we welcome you to start looking, seeing if the college near you or where you go has any vegan clubs. Maybe they would be interested, if you're a group leader, in doing, like we talked about, a community event with your pod and the campus group. So just keep investigating those possibilities. Let us know if you have questions and suggestions. And thank you so much again for joining us. Deena, off to you.
Okay, well, fantastic. What a great event, great learning that we've had tonight. I've really enjoyed it. As I said, I'd love to go back to campus. I pursued my graduate degree at Harvard, and I was there recently, and I was thrilled to see that there were definitely some vegan options that were offered in the cafeterias and, around campus. So it was really terrific. Of course, you got Harvard Square right there. So there's all kinds of fantastic places that offer vegan food. I find I can find vegan food in any restaurant. So it's good to find more whole food plant-based options, which the restaurant campaign is offering. And this is just incredibly exciting to see this Pods on Campus campaign launched, because we know that as a percentage of the population, it's mostly the younger people that are embracing this way of living because it's just better for your health, better for the planet, and better for the animals. And so it's a great way to do it. No matter, which reason you come to eating whole food plant-based, Plant Pure Communities can really help you. And to continue to help you, to continue to provide these resources, we need money. And so you can easily donate. And the fantastic news is that the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies is matching every single dollar. So come on, reach in. $5 helps, $10 helps, a bigger check certainly helps. And all this, everybody donates a little bit of money, and it all adds up to really help us at Plant Pure Communities so that we can continue to provide you with fantastic resources and tools like these toolkits, programs like the Party with a Purpose, all of these things. So I encourage you to check it out. Go over to plantpurecommunities.org. And we'd just love to have you join the family and help us create these pods, join a pod. There's so many ways that you can help. Just check it out. Look for the replay. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on YouTube, and it'll also be on our website. And, even if you're watching months and years later, continue to share, continue to ask questions, continue to get in touch with us, because we'll be here, and we look forward to helping you on your journey. With that, we will sign out. If I can figure out how to turn it off. Okay, everybody, take care. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.